fans, it's Michelle Joy Phelps, and I'm joined now with the one and only Mikaela Mayer. I actually cannot believe that we have not done an interview sooner.
No. I was just thinking about that today. I'm like, oh my God, is this my first time doing an interview with her? Because I know like we talked on social media stuff, but yeah, I'm glad we're finally making it happen.
Yeah, so thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I know you're sort of juggling me in between all of your training at the minute. Do you actually have a projected fight date right now?
Yes, ish.
Okay.
Not exact day. We were looking at the end of March. They said, 1926, but now I think it might be getting pushed back to the first week of April.
Okay.
Either way, we definitely have one coming up. So I've started. Con is actually out here in Colorado Springs right now, training with the soccer team and all that. So I've just been crashing his training camp, and before I head up to Michigan and start camp with Coach Al, but just staying in shape and staying ready for whatever date that is.
Okay, so you live in Colorado, but you actually train in Michigan.
I live in Colorado and I train in Colorado, but Coach Al lives in Michigan. So he always likes when we do like the first 4 or 5 weeks of training camp up there. It's small town. He can really just like focus on maybe things that we need to work on from the last fight or the game plan for this next opponent, and just kind of slow things down and really work on strategy. And then we'll come back out here to Colorado and finish the last 3 or 4 weeks in altitude.
Okay.
And pick up the intensity and everything. So
I was just in Colorado a few weeks ago, and I swear to God, just going upstairs, I was like, oh, why does it feel like this? You don't realize it until you're there, right?
it's such an advantage. Yeah. And even when I go to train with Coach Al for about 4 weeks or whatever, I come back and it's like, I'm still 4 weeks away from my fight and I feel like I'm out of shape. I start to panic a little bit, but I'm used to that. You have to reacclimate every time you come back into town. So
Right.
I feel
Yeah.
yes. Thing.
Well, congratulations on your last fight, Unified. Let's talk a bit about that direction right now. You're only 2 fights shy of becoming undisputed, which is really amazing. I mean, I think what's fantastic is we're starting to see or hear about more undisputed fights, right? Like it just seems like last year we were getting closer and closer to constantly getting an undisputed champion in each division. Let's talk about the fight with Hamadouche. It was a great fight. I feel like your win sort of got shadowed a bit by the judging. Everyone was really kind of going on more about the poor judging versus, your performance. I cracked up actually, because when Coach L was like, I gave her an A-, I was dying. I was like, you must be, your whole sort of setup with him must be like you're constantly having to like,
my God, you have no idea.
Hard to like win over his praise, right?
Yeah, and honestly, that's why I always say like the hardest part of my of this whole thing is my training camps with Coach Al, because he's not a yes man. I'm not sitting in the corner and he's patting me on the back saying I did a great job. I'm not leaving the gym telling me that I'm the baddest girl out there and no one's ever gonna beat me. Like he's constantly criticizing me, telling me what I need to work on, and keeping me humble and focused. And so that's just how he's always been.
Right. So
yeah, but I got an A, so I was happy with the A.
Yes, I got an A. It was funny because I've always got B pluses.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Oh, I've got minuses. I've gotten a C plus. Like he's been hard on me, but he just keeps me humble and keeps me wanting to get better and better. He always says that. Never stop learning in the sport. You have to keep getting better.
You talked about going through a rebellious stage in your life at one point, which sort of led you down this road to boxing. Is it safe for you to sort of elaborate on what it was you were rebelling against?
Well, so it started with my family and the way that I grew up. My dad got custody of all 3 of us girls at a really young age. I think we were 7, 12, and 13. So he had a full-time job. He worked for Mattel Toys for 30 years, a toy designer. So he had a full-time job, and I had to get myself up to go to school every day, and I had to get myself home, and I had to take care of myself pretty much. And so my mom wasn't in the picture anymore. And I sort of just said, well, at that age, 14, 15 years old, if no one's getting you up and making you go to class, do you? I didn't. And I just kind of, got kicked out of multiple schools, was in 3 different high schools by the time I hit my senior year, hanging out with older people, not focused on anything. And I sort of just had this epiphany that I wanted to be successful. I wanted something more than that. And in hindsight, I think I came to that realization younger than I expected. I thought I was old. I was like 18. I'm like, what am I doing? Everyone's going to college. I'm not doing shit. But in hindsight, I think I pulled that mindset together pretty young. And so I was 17. And that's when I first walked into a gym, just with the idea of wanting to start something new. My dad had me in sports growing up.
Why the gym? You could have gone and done really anything. So what was it specifically that drew you to a gym?
So my dad had me in sports growing up. He was our soccer coach for like 10 years. You know, we were kids, and we did track, ran 5Ks on the weekend, and then, you know, you turn into a teenager, and I just stopped doing all that. So I said, let me get back into the sport. And there was this Muay Thai kickboxing gym in my neighborhood that I always drove past, walked past, right there in Canoga Park. And I just decided to walk in one day and ask how much it was to sign myself up. I always had a job. I've been working since I was like 15 years old. And so it was $100 to sign up. I went to the ATM, pulled out my last $100 out of a bank account and signed myself up. And I just became obsessed. I think that's sort of what happens with anyone who starts in combat sports. They either hate it and can't stand getting hit in the face, or they become obsessed. And that's what I did.
It's true, but you know what? It takes a special individual to want to get hit in the face and like get paid for it and make a living off of that.
Well, here's the thing. I don't even know what I was thinking. Looking back, I'm like, what were you thinking, Mikaela? Because there was no really career path for me at all. Promoters weren't signing women in boxing, and we weren't even allowed to compete in the Olympics yet. But a month or two into training, I somehow had this idea that I was going to be the best female fighter in the world. This was when like Gina Carano was the face of women's MMA, like before Ronda Rousey. They weren't like UFC yet. I think it was Strikeforce or something like that. And so I dabbled with that idea as well, but I started with Muay Thai, and then a year later I took my first boxing fight at 18.
Isn't it funny how it works? Like, I'm a very spiritual person, so I always believe, like, I always go off of like my gut instinct. Like, something always says, if you need to do it, do it. Don't question it, just do it. And it's sort of like that's exactly what you did, and look where you found yourself.
I have to credit that mindset though to my dad, because when he got all three of us girls, like how do you do that, right? He's a single dad, full-time job, and he could have very easily been, what are you doing? You're not gonna go start boxing. You need to go to college. You need to do this. You need to do that. And he never instilled, like, he never told us what to do. He always let us dream big, and he always supported everything that we ever did. He never instilled fear into us. And I think a lot of parents do that with their kids when they're young, and not necessarily because they want to, but because they want to protect them, right? And my dad never did that. And so he gave me that confidence to sort of chase this ridiculous dream, which it was at the time. Because like I said, there was no really clear path for me. And so I think that I have that mentality from him, and just letting me be me and letting me dream, and not instilling any fear.
I feel like everything sort of fell into place with you because, number one, Coach Al made a vow at one point that he was never going to train a woman, and here he is. And look where you're at, and look at the you've paved a way for women in boxing. You also are the first woman to have been signed by Top Rank. One of the things, I wrote this quote down because I didn't want to get it wrong. You said, hold on, if I failed, meaning Top Rank, with Top Rank, they wouldn't have believed in women's boxing. And I found that very powerful because there was so much pressure riding on you to always get it right, to always prove like we have worth, value in this. In hindsight, when you do look back on those moments, those fights as you're climbing up the ladder, what can you tell us about like what was going through your mind? Because that's heavy.
It was a lot of pressure, because I was one of the few women, not just with Top Rank, but I was one of the few women who had a platform on ESPN, you know. And for some people, they would turn on ESPN and this is the first women's boxing fight they've ever seen. And so there was pressure there, but it's privilege pressure. I call it privilege, because I have a great opportunity and I'm one of the few women who do. And I asked for that pressure, you know, I manifested that pressure. I really wanted that, and every move I've made since I walked into the gym that day has led me to this moment. And so there was nothing to do but embrace it and just do the best that I could.
I don't know if you experience this, but I know I do, and just in what I do. Do you find that because we're constantly having to prove ourselves as women in a male-dominated sport, did you ever find it annoying that we can't just say boxers it has to be like female boxers, or like my instance,
No.
like female, correspondent or female. It's always like sort of, but we're fighting for equality, but we're constantly being, put in a box still. Does that make sense?
It's a catch-22, because here's the thing: our path has been so unique and so different, and I wouldn't necessarily want to be. I'm proud of the word woman in front of what I do, right, in front of my title. And women have come a long way, and not just boxing, but in society in general. So I don't think that it's okay to automatically, until we see equality in other areas, why are we going to sort of take away our independence in that sense? You know what I'm saying? I embrace it. I like that I'm a woman in this sport, that they say woman before me. I don't mind that at all. I look at it as a positive thing, and it's been a tough journey and a tough path, and I think that needs to be recognized and acknowledged, and we're unique in that way, so we deserve our own category.
Right, we're starting to see a lot more opportunity, in the sense that you guys are making more money now. Slowly but surely, you're making more money. I've spoken to a few people. I'm even just down to Miranda Serrano. It was amazing. She did a tweet and she said, "I'm finally a millionaire." Obviously, she credits Jake Paul, which surprisingly, I just sort of how he sort of kind of came into the boxing sphere, but he opened up an opportunity for a female boxer to become a millionaire. You have Clarissa Shields, who is now a millionaire. You're starting to hear more about it. And then you're also starting to question, you hear about the 3-minute rounds. Should you guys do 3-minute rounds? Should you not? Natasha Jonas has said to me, what's the point in doing 3-minute rounds if we're not being paid more? You said something like that to Andre Ward when you did an interview with him. Is that still where you stand? Like, do you still, what would make you, I don't want to put you too like on the spot in terms of
No,
my
idea has changed multiple times about this, because you're right. I do agree. I was like, why am I going to continue to fight for more when I'm not getting any more in return? But then I also have to realize, as a pioneer in the sport, as this generation of women, we're all pioneers in the sport. I already know that I'm not going to necessarily reap the benefits of my work, right? I can do the best I can, and we're going to be making changes slowly, but I think that our work now, maybe the generation after us, or even the generation after that, they're going to see the fruit of our labor. We're not necessarily going to see that, and I'm okay with that. I'm still going to fight as much as I can, as hard as I can, while I'm still have this platform and I'm still fighting. But sometimes things take a little longer than that. And so now my idea is, okay, as being a big part of this generation of boxing, what can I do to keep developing it and bettering it? And that's fighting for the 3-minute rounds and fighting for a closer, and maybe we won't see equal pay, but we're going to get closer and closer and closer to that. And I also think it leaves room for negotiation when you're negotiating purses for fights. A manager can say, like, look, she's going 3-minute rounds now. Let's up the pay. Let's start closing this gap a little bit more. So yeah, now I'm definitely for it. I'm not going to sit back and be like, well, if they're not going to do more for me, I already know that I'm here to do more for women's boxing than I'm ever going to get in return, and I'm okay with that, and I'm proud of that. And so yeah, if you don't see the benefits, let's push for it.
Right. Because if it isn't from you guys, then who is it going to be from, right?
Exactly.
Right. So, Undisputed. There's been a lot said from Miss Alycia Baumgardner. I was quite surprised when I'm actually interviewing her in a few hours. So, and what's funny is I did not intend for you guys to fall on the same day. Swear to God, it just happened to be that you guys are now on the same day. So, yeah, what did you make of a lot of the comments that she's made about you?
I like what?
Or just in general, just the shit talking.
I mean, the thing is when Terri Harper had the belts, I came for her, right? Because I want to be undisputed. So I want to fight the champions. And now that she's the champion, I'm going to come for her. And so I've come for her, and she seemed to take it as very offensive. Like I'm jealous, and it's Alycia the Baumgardner's time, and everybody can get it, and blah blah blah. Mikaela's just jealous because the attention's not on her. This isn't high school to me. I want to fight the champions and I want to become undisputed. So you are in my way of that. And so now I'm coming for you. That's it.
And you also know what I love about you, by the way, is I love that you're not afraid to speak your mind. That's what people want to see. They want to see that. They actually respect it more versus you going, oh, I'm just going to leave it to my management. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you know how it goes. Like, you see a post fight and you're like, well, who do you want next? Well, whoever my management wants next. Like, no, bro, we want what you want.
And that was my thing that's why I started calling out Alycia, is because every time she was asked that question, she never said, sorry.
It's okay.
Every time she was asked that question, she never said, I want Mikaela Mayer next. I want the champs next. I've said that from the beginning. And so now she has a belt and I want her. I want to fight her. So she never said that. She would never call me out, except she had all these bad things to say about me, but would never say my name when someone asked who she wanted next. So she's already made it clear she wants Choi. My team has spoken with Eddie. Eddie has confirmed that they're going to go for Choi first. Mm-hmm. So, what else can I do? I'm going to focus on staying busy. I'm going to fight in March and April. And we'll let Choi and Baumgardner and see who comes out on top there. And then we'll have a big unification fight this year. That's all I care about. But I do think it's important to have this year. We need to get it done. There's
the silver lining. Your fight will be for all the belts. So,
great. Yeah. It'll be good regardless. I mean, it's going to be great regardless. It would have been great. It would have been a great matchup between me and Terri Harper. We've been building it for years. But it's going to be just as great with Alycia Baumgardner, Americans. It's already starting to bubble, and people are getting excited about it. So either way, yeah, I'll take it. Whoever it is going to.
The shit talking is only going to build the fight that much.
Yeah.
I swear to you, because we're all for it. All of us are like, oh my God, he's following your guys' tweets. So it's good,
yeah.
It's good press. It's good press for sure. So just in general, what did you make of Terri Harper, or I guess the fight between Terri Harper and Alycia Baumgardner?
Alycia did her thing. She froze Terri. I think Terri, and I tweeted this the other day, has been moved horribly. I think that she should have never been thrown into a world title fight against Ava Wallstrom a couple of years back. She wasn't ready, and they just continue to, put her in these tough fights. She's off for a year for an injury. They throw her against a hard-hitting girl like Baumgardner, and then 3 months after she gets knocked out, they're throwing her back into the ring. It's like, I think it's horrible management. I feel bad for her because she's so young. What is the rush? She just turned 25. She's so young, and now look at the position she's in. So you know what? Whatever. That's not my argument, but I did feel a need to say something about it on sort of the other day. It is what it is. I wish her the best in her comeback. Hopefully we can have that fight down the road. But now Alicia's the champ.
Who wins for you, Terri Harper or Heather Hardy?
I think Terri can beat Heather Hardy. I do. Heather Hardy is tough. She's been in there. She's gritty. She's gonna come to fight, and she's tough. She's been in there. She has experience. But with Terri Harper, if she stays tall, she's a taller boxer, rangier boxer, probably a little bit more technically sound. And so if she can come into that fight mentally strong, that's one of the reasons I think that it's a little bit of a rush for her. It's not just about whether she can beat Terri Harper or not. It's like, where is she mentally? She got stopped cold, and so that's got to take a toll on you mentally. She shouldn't even be sparring yet. Sometimes you need time to kind of get back in there, get your rhythm, get your confidence back. And so I don't know. She's had a year off, then gets knocked out, and then is thrown back in the ring quickly. So I just hope that she's mentally strong, and not just being rushed into this too soon. But if she can pull it together mentally, I think she beats Hardy. But either way, I think it's gonna be a good fight. I respect Heather Hardy. She's been in the game a long time. We fought in the amateurs together. So I hope they both getting paid well. That's really it.
Right. Another really big, exciting fight that we know will be happening. It's estimated about April 30th at this point, is going to be Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano. That's a fight that we've been asking for several years now. And it was always down to money. Someone was always saying I needed more, or wasn't willing to budge, but now here we are. And I want to know who you think wins that fight, because that's a tough one to call.
It is tough because they both come from such different backgrounds. You know, Katie has that really strong amateur pedigree, and I think her style really still shows in her boxing fights, and not necessarily in a bad way. She got the speed, fast, but a lot of the things she does is still very amateur, always leading with the backhand, not setting up a lot of stuff with the jabs, a lot of hippity hoppiness. Amanda Serrano has definitely the more sound pro style. So we'll see. If I had to bet money on it, I think Amanda Serrano takes it. But we'll see. I don't think Katie has looked her sharpest in her last couple fights. You know, if this fight would have happened a couple years ago, maybe I would have said Katie. But right now, I don't see her performing in her last couple of fights like the way I used to see her. So, again, I respect both of them, and I think it's going to be a great fight. And so may the best woman win. Again, hope they're getting paid well. I plan on moving up after this whole Undisputed thing gets finally done. I do plan on moving up to 135. I've always had a dream of fighting Katie Taylor. I thought that'd be a great big fight. I thought about it for years. But it's also going to be great if Serrano takes it. I mean, Serrano can go toe to toe, and I think that's going to be a great fight for women's boxing. So whoever wins, I think it's a win-win situation.
I know that we briefly mentioned, or I mentioned Jake Paul. He sort of came out of nowhere with this whole boxing thing. I know everyone has different opinions on it, but I just want to know what your thoughts are overall with sort of what he's doing for other boxers. I mean, he takes a pay cut for himself and he gives it to his undercard. He's helped Amanda Serrano achieve things that she had not been able to achieve prior to this, and giving her a platform, high paydays. What do you make of him overall, just sort of in the mix, not just as a boxer, but just in general?
Yeah, you can't hate on that. I mean, he's obviously some really great things. So to him for that. That's great what he's done for Amanda. If she's happy with him, then that's great. It's really hard to find a manager these days that you're happy with. I got really lucky. I see a lot of boxers getting screwed over all the time. So if she found someone that really works good for her, works hard for her, and she's happy with, that's great. I have nothing bad to say about him on that side. I don't know. As far as the boxing thing, it's a little frustrating when you see, all this talk, him calling out the greats and,
Don't you think he's like low-key just trolling us all? Like, obviously
okay, so I used to, and I'm like, hey, do your thing, ass, all media, and now I'm really starting to think he believes it. And he doesn't love boxing. I'm not saying he doesn't work hard. I'm sure he does. I'm sure he loves boxing. We all love boxing. But it's going to take a few more solid wins, period, against boxers, okay, for me to, like, sort of give him the respect when it comes to that. Then again, this is a new era with media, like social media and YouTube and all this stuff. It's just changing the game. So you can't hate on anyone's hustle. If anyone got offered to fight Jake Paul for that kind of money, they would. But if he wants to be respected as a boxer in the boxing community, I think he needs to take some better quality boxing opponents.
When he was supposed to be fighting Tommy Fury, I asked Eddie Hearn who he thought would have won the fight, and he actually said Jake Paul. And then now there's rumors of possibly Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.
Mm-hmm.
So,
he could. I don't think that Tommy Fury is all that good. I watched him box and I said, oh, he's no Tyson Fury, that's for sure. And Cesar Chavez has not really lived up to his name, has he? So yeah, Jake Paul maybe could beat those guys, but good. When you're 5-6-0, you should be. I think those are fine matchups. I don't think that those are like the best opponents the best boxers in the world that he's facing. But at this point, like, he doesn't need to face the best boxers in the world. He just needs to face boxers.
Right, I agree with that. Because he did. Yeah. BJ Flores, his trainer, did say, he's like, look, most fighters at 5 or 4 and 5 fights, they're not fighting like top level guys. They're
yeah.
Basically, it's a learning process, isn't it? You're trying to find someone that you can have a good test with, but you're not also trying to put everything on the line at that point. So I definitely think that would be a good matchup. I mean, I think if I remember correctly, Chavez Jr. said that if he does not beat Jake Paul, that he would retire. So
I don't think anyone will miss him anyway.
It's interesting times. But okay, well, thank you so much for your time, Mikaela. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I did try to meet you in, where was it, Vegas, but they were kicking us out of the room and they were like, get all your stuff, and I was packing all my crap up, and then You ended up going into a different place, and I ended up going into the meeting.
So busy. That's what I met Ebony, right? That's when I first met up with Ebony. Yeah, I was so
Yeah.
busy that weekend anyways, commentating that fight. Commentating is fun, but it's a serious challenge because it's not just about like knowing the boxer or knowing boxing. It's about having a comment on the spot and being able to verbally express what you're seeing on the spot. And so it's definitely a challenge, but it's fun. And, you know, I'm excited to kind of get my feet wet. I'll actually potentially be in the UK commentating for the February 5th card with Clarissa is on. So with Sky Sport.
I won't be there, unfortunately. I'll be in Vegas for the Thurman Barrios fight, but
Well, we'll meet each other soon, I'm sure.
yeah.
Eventually.
Well, thank you for the time. I appreciate it. And look, I wish you all the best in, you know, whoever it is you're fighting next. You don't have an opponent just yet, right?
I have an opponent. We're looking into some top girls. You know, at this point, we really want the Undisputed fight is what we wanted to get done. Now we have to look at other options to keep me busy. But obviously, I want to fight a top girl and, you know, people who deserve fights.
Right.
People who deserve fights. Yeah.
Right. Well, once you have an opponent sort of set, then we can catch up again. If it's not in person, we'll do it over Zoom. But thank you so much again for your time, and then we'll catch up soon. Hey Fight fans, it's Michelle Joy Phelps. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking this icon right here and hit the bell button below so that you can receive an alert every time we upload a new video.